Vishnu. Sri Vishnu. Samsara Davana Vidha Loka Tranaya Karunya Gana Gana Dvam Samsara
Tasya Kalyana Gunarnavasya Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam
Samsara Davanalavidhaloka Dhanaya Karunya
Everyone together. Jaya Shriman Narayana.
Jaya Shriman Narayana.
Jaya Bhagavan Shri Krishna.
Jaya Bhagavan Shri Krishna.
Jaya Shri Guru.
Jaya Shri Guru.
Sanatana Dharma Jayate.
Sanatana Dharma Jayate.
Dharma Rashtra Jayate.
Dharma Rashtra Jayate.
Surya Vangsha Jayate.
Surya Vangsha Jayate.
International Sanatana Dharma Society Jayate.
International Sanatana Dharma Society Jayate.
Om Harihi Om. Very good. Namaste, everyone, and welcome to our latest live stream. You are joining us here live at the Omaha World Headquarters and Temple of the International Sanatana Dharma Society. As I've told people before, but this bears repeating, you are in a very special and very sacred place like none other. Whether it's the individuals who are here with us right now, who are literally sitting here in our temple, whether it's the individuals who are watching from everywhere throughout the world. This is indeed a sacred space. What the International Sanatana Dharma Society represents is something unlike anything that exists upon the planet today, and that is purity in force. Purity in force. Prabhupada alluded to this. His Divine Grace, Abhaya Charanaravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada alluded to this several times, that purity is everything, but purity meaning what? Not in a Puritan sense, sort of way. Not that we're Puritans, but that we wish to convey truth in an unadulterated manner, in a thoroughly unadulterated manner. And that is what we attempt to do with you every single week, that we come together with you with these live streams. What we do here is special. You know, there are thousands and thousands and thousands of channels on YouTube, on BitChute, on Rumble, on Odyssey, many other places as well. People can live stream now on X and so many different places. What makes this place different from every other place is that on the one hand, we lay claim unabashedly to authority. We don't speculate, and we're honest with you about this. Myself, I'm not an internet personality. I'm not some person on YouTube. I don't do this for money. Indeed, you see that, we don't have whatever those things are called where you can donate and it's guaranteed I'll answer your question. No, I'll answer your question if it's sincere. I don't care if you donate $1 million. If it's insincere, your question is not going to be answered. On the other hand, if you give nothing but your heart, and you ask a sincere question for one reason and one reason alone, because you wish to know God, I will go out of my way to make sure that your question is answered. What we do here is very different. What we do here is that on the one hand, again, it is unlike anything that exists on the planet today because of its purity and its force. On the one hand. On the other hand, it is also the case that this is indeed a movement that is designed to impact this world in a very real sort of way. And to cut to the chase, to get to the gist of what motivates us, because everyone has a motivation. See, everyone has a motivation. It's a matter of, is it good motive? Is it bad motive? Is it mixed motive? Before we started, and we were even a few minutes late, and I was sitting here knowing that we were going to start a little bit late, I still took the time to look at everyone here in the temple room and ask them a simple question. Why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? And a few people looked at me quizzically because that's all I said. Why are we doing this? And one person very quickly gave the correct answer. In fact, let me say, he answered better than I was going to say, actually. What I was going to say is, why are we doing this? To please God. But he actually answered in an even better way. He said, before I could even answer, we're doing this to make God smile. That's the answer. That's what motivates me. That's what motivates our people, not just here, but members, well-wishers, followers of the ISDS throughout the length and breadth of this planet and beyond. This is what motivates us, is this one thing, indeed, to make God smile. This is why we do everything that we do. So that being the case, let me just say this before we even dive into what we're going to be doing today. For everyone out there who is watching, and I'm more aware of who's watching than most people know. There are all kinds of people. There are people whose sincerity would melt rocks. They are so sincere. There are people who are mixed. And then there are people who, they're just skeptical, etc. They're here for not good reasons. There are a variety of people who are here. Let me speak to all of you, because this actually applies to every living being. If you want to lay claim to being a spiritual person in any manner whatsoever, and whether that means all you do is read books, all you do is watch YouTube videos, or whether it means you go deeper, that you've actually practiced, that you've practiced various things, that God willing, God hopefully it is the case, that you've actually practiced Vedic spirituality. Whoever you are, if you wish to know true spirituality, faces making mouth noises on YouTube alone will not help you. Having a library of 100,000 books and having laid claim to having read half of them alone will not help you. What will help you is what your ultimate motivation is. And this is the highest motivation. Not just, interestingly, this too, but not just that you want to know the truth. Not just that you want to know yourself. Not just that you want to do that which is good. Not just. But if you truly want to dive into the very heart of true spirituality, the kind of spirituality that will help you go beyond merely your thinking apparatus and have you begin to actually experience God directly, and so dramatically that it has been like nothing else you've ever experienced in your life, then this is what you must do. Have this be your sole motivation. One thing and one thing alone. That everything that you are doing on the spiritual path is to please God and to make God smile. Then you will know God. Very good. So with that, thank you for your indulgence as I got that out. Now what we're going to be doing is very simply questions and answers. As I promised people last time, we're going to be taking questions from the audience. So again, everyone who is out there, please feel free to ask your questions. And again, don't waste this time that you have, because if you waste it, you may never be provided this again, this opportunity. Ask real questions. Ask sincere questions. Ask honest questions, because we know when a question is not honest, when you're asking it for the wrong reason. And if you will ask sincere questions, I will endeavor the best as I can with the very limited ability that I have to satisfy those questions. So again, I thank you. Questions are coming in. And again, let me just reiterate, for people who are here, please feel free to also ask your questions as well. Just raise your hand. But questions are pouring in very nicely online. So give me a moment to just look at these. Yes, very nice. Here is a perfect first question that I am absolutely going to answer. And I won't say people's names. I'll just read the questions if that's all right. This first question goes to exactly what I was just speaking about. Namaste Acharyaji. How do we rid ourselves of fear from surrendering to God? It feels like completely surrendering to God means giving up our free will and control over our existence. Wonderful question. Thank you for asking that. And let me say that indeed I have answered this many times, and I'm happy to answer it again and again because it is crucial, because it goes to the very heart of our existential problem as beings living in this world of illusion. And that is, why are we here to begin with? You see, this gets to, again, the very root of the issue. The fact that one may have fear of surrendering to God, if we understand our present circumstance, that's not surprising, interestingly. Not surprising at all. For those who don't know Vedic spirituality, it may come as a bit of a surprise for them to hear me say that. But no, the reason why we're here is because we would not surrender to God. This realm, this material realm, what is often called the material realm, is in a way, let's say, a reform school. We're here to learn. We're here to learn about the world around us, about ourselves, about God. We are here to reform ourselves such that it comes to the point where we can indeed surrender to God. You see, these are the two states that are juxtaposed. That of false ego, what does that mean? Very simply, putting ourselves in the center. And it doesn't necessarily mean in a ferocious way. It doesn't mean that we're demonically just, oh, me, me, me. No, even in a subtle way. We kind of put ourselves in the center. We put our fears in the center of all things. And if anything, psychologically, we are running away from our fears by running deeper into illusion. So there's that on the one hand. On the other hand, there is indeed surrender. Now, let's talk about that surrender. Several things to be said, and I'm actually going to kind of deal with your question from the end and then go toward the beginning. So first of all, you talk about giving up our free will. Oh yes, this is indeed one of the fears that people have. And this is why, while it sounds like such a simple thing, it's interesting. Let me just back up for a moment. When people hear this, oh, surrender to God, that's everything. Prapatti, though, that's the most important thing. It sounds almost simplistic to people. It sounds simplistic to the point where they think to themselves, again, in their egotism, oh, this is not a very sophisticated worldview, very sophisticated philosophy. Oh, no, there must be tantra and mysticism and this and that and so many millions of things that I have to endeavor to do. And yet, as simple as they think it is, they can't do it. Can they? It is not simplistic. It is simple, but at the same time, the hardest thing, the most challenging thing in existence for a person to do. And why is that? Because again, it gets back to psychologically the very root of why we are here and why we are suffering to begin with, because we did not want to surrender. So thus, all that being the case, oh yes, people have these fears, and they're unnatural fears. So when it comes to free will, for example, oh, free will. Most individuals with their free will have abused that free will. First of all, free will is something that is inherent to who we are. To lose our free will is to say, I am losing my Atman, I am losing my consciousness, I am losing quite literally the essential nature of who and what I am as an eternal being. There is no such thing as truly losing our free will. We can relinquish our free will, we can abuse our free will, and that we have done. But interestingly, when we surrender to God, and listen to these words from someone who has surrendered to God. I surrendered to God, and I have been surrendered to God longer than most people listening right now have been alive. Oh, I have a strong will. I have a will like titanium. Any of my students will tell you this. Indeed, all you have to do is listen to one live stream of mine. I'm not someone who is a slave of anything. I have a very strong and good will. This is the nature of the individual who surrenders to God, is that if anything, our free will, once we have rid ourselves of that poison of ego, our free will in its true sense, atmically, is freed. So indeed, when you look at sages and saints in the past who have fully surrendered to God, you don't see automatons. You don't see robots. You don't see a robot when you look at me, do you? No, you see the opposite. You see someone whose goodwill, to state it philosophically, is unleashed, is freed. So it's actually the very opposite. If we want to fully exercise our free will, you surrender to God, and then control over our existence. No, it's acknowledgement. It's not losing control. It's not relinquishing control. It's acknowledgement of the fact that, oh yes, as great as I am, as much autonomy as I have, as much, again, free will as I have, etc. It's acknowledgement that all things that I am, all things that I have ultimately come from that which is infinitely beyond me and is my source, and thus I should have eternal gratitude. So no, we don't lose control over ourselves. We simply acknowledge the fact that, oh, with as much control as I have God to thank for that. Now, that being said, let me get to the first part of what you ask here, and that is, how do we rid ourselves of fear from surrendering to God? By understanding that surrender, prapatti, is a process. It's not just a one-time motion. So indeed, it's interesting, even some Vaishnavas, unfortunately, maybe the ones who were a little bit too infected by Christianity or something, they have this idea that, oh, it's like becoming a born-again Christian. You kind of make a statement and you say it very emotionally. So you just kind of throw your arms up in the air and say, oh God, I surrender to you. And you really, really mean it. And that's it. And you're good. And you're quote-unquote saved from that moment on. No, that is not the proper understanding. The understanding of prapatti is that it is a process. It is an ongoing process. It's something that takes time. And for many people, much of their lives it takes. So as far as this first part of the question, how do we rid ourselves of fear from surrendering to God? By understanding that it is something that takes time. You work with it, and it's you working with it. So in other words, this is a cooperation. When we are growing spiritually, it is a cooperation between ourselves, indeed, with our free will, with control over who we are, but then also with God's grace, also there at the same time. Our growing spiritually is a partnership between ourselves and God. That being the case, when you do this prapatti slowly, again, taking your time, rather than it being the idea of something like, oh, leaping over an infinite chasm in one leap, and oh my God, will I even make it to the other side? No. It's more like climbing a ladder. It's more like traversing a path. It's more like going up a stairway, where little by little, with each step, you look around, you take that step, you look around, you realize everything is fine. Everything is good. I'm still me, haven't lost myself. And then you take that next step in prapatti. You go deeper. And again, step by step by step, as a process, you begin to build what? Faith. You begin to build faith. And why? Because you're doing it step by step. And I'm doing it in a joking way, but no, it very much is like this. As you traverse the path spiritually, you take a few steps and then you assess. All right, well, the guru, the scriptures, they said I would experience such and such. Have I? Yes, seems to be the case. And again, I'm still me, haven't lost myself, I have my own thoughts. Now, little by little, you build that faith and you continue to traverse. And in that way, the fear is gone. The fear is gone because you've seen. See, when you've seen, there's no basis for fear. What do you fear? Oh, what you don't know. So in this way, again, be patient with yourself, but at the same time, be patient with yourself doesn't mean sit back, throw your legs up, and just be lazy. No, it means you challenge yourself, but also be patient. That as you continue to grow on this path, the faith will come and the fear will disappear. So I hope that answers your question. And let me see, please, if there are any other good questions here. Give me one moment, please, to just see this. sure the questions are here. Please give me a moment. For some reason, the text is not cooperating with me. There we go. All right, I will answer this question next. Namaste, Gurudeva. In many Western countries, people seem to worship Mary as a kind of a female part of God, although it is not biblical. Does this come from our inner natural yearning to worship Sri? Good question, actually, and the answer is yes. The answer is yes. And of course, you're talking about specifically in Catholicism, a little bit in Orthodoxy as well. You don't really find this in the Protestant denominations at all. But especially, let's say, in Catholicism, indeed, you have veneration of the Virgin Mary. And indeed, oh yes, it's true, it's not biblical. It's not something, that you find in the New Testament where people are venerating her. But it is indeed an indication that despite the fact of the Abrahamization of Europe, when that occurred, despite that fact, people indeed still have this yearning for the divine feminine. That is, for the feminine aspect of God, for the idea of worshiping goddesses, etc., which is something that is very Vedic. Ultimately, you trace this all back to the Vedic scriptures. Of course, you find the idea of worshiping the divine feminine or goddesses in many ancient religions, that is the pre-Abrahamic religions. But even all of those pre-Abrahamic religions, either directly or indirectly, trace themselves back to Sanatana Dharma. There is no way around this. This is just as an aside. At some point, I'm going to give an entire lecture about this and set this record straight once and for all. It's not that all the ancient religions of the world, that is the pre-Abrahamic religions, it's not that they can all be seen in parallel, which is unfortunately the academic approach. That is, oh yes, they are all there, they're all on the same plane, and oh, let's compare and contrast. No, it's not this. It is this. This being Sanatana Dharma, and Sanatana Dharma being the most ancient practice of spirituality on earth. So this being the case, this ultimately is where you trace back this idea of what could be called the divine feminine. So indeed, despite themselves, you see many Christians also yearning for this idea of what? Shakti Shaktiman, of what? Shriman Narayana. Shriman being the more feminine aspect of God, Narayana the more masculine aspect. So indeed, even unconsciously, there is this yearning to follow Dharma on the part of innocent and good and well-meaning individuals throughout history, even if they are living in a society where Dharma in its overt form seemingly doesn't exist. It still does. And they try, even just intuitively, to grasp on to what they can. So I hope that answers your question. All right, give me a moment, please, to look at some more questions that are here. Very good. Here's a very nice two-part question, and I will read this and then answer it. Namaste. In Sanatana Dharma today, there are many beliefs and traditions that have no basis in the Vedas or other scriptures. Should we get rid of these beliefs which are harmful to the image of Dharma, or should we, in the spirit of tolerance, which is part of our religion, let other dharmis believe in these ideas, traditions? Very good. Let me first of all say this to you. If you have not done so already, and I must assume you haven't, because then you wouldn't ask these questions, because it would have been answered for you already. Read my book, indeed. Don't walk, run. To purchase this book, Radical Universalism. Can you get me a copy, please? Get this book, because this book that I have written called Radical Universalism, it's well over 200 pages now. It goes incredibly in-depth into what you just asked. Thank you. This is the book. When you have a chance, again, don't walk, run to purchase this book, Radical Universalism. It's a thick book. It's well over 200 pages, like 230, something like that, pages. And this will answer the question. And I will answer it nonetheless in this way. indeed, there is Sanatana Dharma, the eternal natural way. That is Dharma, the Vedic way, the Vaidika Dharma, the Vedic path, as it was followed by Lord Brahma, as it has been followed and is still followed by Lord Shiva, as it was followed by Rama when he was the king of Ayodhya 1.7 million years ago, as it was taught by Krishna over 5,000 years ago, etc., etc. There is Sanatana Dharma on the one hand. On the other hand, what we have seen is that for the past roughly 200 years, at this point historically slightly more than that, but let's say around 200 years, when we have had this clash, this interface of Sanatana Dharma with the very worst of modernity, what began to occur is that followers of Sanatana Dharma, some of the less intelligent ones, began to adopt practices and ideas from modernity and begin to say, oh yes, this is what Hinduism actually really says. And, without going through the whole list, we have a video where I talk about this. I can't recall the exact name right now, but it's something like Sanatana Dharma versus Neo-Hinduism. I give lists and lists and lists of all the ideas that many modern Hindus, they think this is Vedic. And I explain, nope, this person invented this idea. Nope, that person invented this idea. Nope, this missionary brought this idea to India, etc., etc. So watch that video when you have a chance, but more importantly, read this book, because I go more in depth than any other human being ever will, what to speak of ever has, into explaining this. So to answer your question, yes, if it is not Vedic, it is not Vedic. There is no question of tolerance or intolerance. It's a matter of, I want a glass of water, please. One person gives me a glass of milk. One person gives me a lassi. One person gives me some juice. One person gives me a Coca-Cola, which I don't drink. One other person gives me an Arnold Palmer. Another person gives me something else. I asked for water. Water is water. Water is not an Arnold Palmer. Water is not a Coca-Cola. Water is water. It's not a matter of, oh, but Acharyaji, you're being so intolerant. I'm giving you a nice lassi. Oh, that's nice. I need water right now. I'm speaking, I would like some nice cool water. Water is water. In the same way, it's not tolerance or intolerance. It's a matter of, is it Vedic or is it not? A. B, are we Vedic or are we not? These two questions have to be dealt with. Is this thing Vedic or is it not? Now, determining, oh, it's not Vedic. It's made up. So-and-so invented this idea 162 years ago. All right, it's not found anywhere in the Vedas. Now the next question. Now, understanding that, am I Vedic? If I am, then I cannot follow that. If I'm not Vedic, if I'm not Hindu, if I'm not a follower of Sanatana Dharma, then let's just throw everything out. I'll follow whatever I want. You see the difference? So indeed, this is where it comes to being honest. We have to be honest with ourselves. If I am a follower of Sanatana Dharma, I am a follower of Buddhism, of Satanism, of fourth wave, 10th wave feminism. No, if I'm a follower of Sanatana Dharma, I am a follower of Sanatana Dharma. It's not a matter of tolerance or intolerance. It's a matter of, am I honest? Am I honest with myself and others? So indeed, this is so many people. Let me tell you, I have known the biggest Hindu activists on the face of the earth, in America and India, actually. Ram Madhav, who is, I believe he still is in the federal government now of India. He was the communications director of the RSS. He and I knew each other, etc. And let me tell you, in all of my years of knowing Hindu activists, what to speak of just the common Hindu, no, people who are leaders of Hinduism, Sangh Parivar, etc. Again and again and again and again, all of these people would always say to me, why is Hinduism the way that it is now? Why does it have so many problems? Why do people not respect it? Why this, why this, why this, why that? And I would give them the answer. And in many cases, they got it. In some cases, it befuddled them. And the answer is very simply this. Why does quote-unquote Hinduism have so many problems? Why is it not respected? It's because Hindus are not following Hinduism. It's because we need to embrace Sanatana Dharma as it is. See, like Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita as it is. Not, as so-and-so with their worthless little opinions have kind of tweaked it to make their constituency happy, and these people and those people and these people. No, we are to follow Sanatana Dharma purely. That being the case, not only will we be empowered like we never have been, directly by God, by Bhagavan, but more, others will begin to respect us. So indeed, I hope that answers your question. If it's not Vedic, it's not Vedic. It's not a matter of tolerance. It's a matter of, it's not Vedic, it has nothing to do with us. And that is the answer. Good. Here's a nice question, actually. And I can answer this pretty quickly, but it will be the accurate answer. This is a good question. My humble greetings, Sri Guru. My question is, do we have to activate the sacred energies or powers, or what it is inside of sacred objects, or does it lay dormant inside of it and works when used? No, it has to be drawn out. And the way that it is drawn out is by, first of all, activating yourself. So in other words, this is why, for example, we have sacred objects all over the world. We have them in museums. Some people have them in private collections, etc. And yet, for that individual who owns them, it's an inert thing. Why is that the case? Yes, power is latent, can be latent within something, a sacred object. But if the individual who is in possession of that object and trying to work with it has allowed their own energy to be latent, to remain latent, and has not brought it out, then that will remain the case. So in other words, this is what I'm saying in shorthand. First, we need to work on ourselves. First, we need to, I like the word that you use, activate. First, we have to activate ourselves. That being the case, let me go deeper. Not just objects, and I understand what you're asking me. Some in the audience might not. I understand what you're asking me. Not just the sacred objects. If we activate ourselves truly, everything else will become reactivated. Indeed, the gods themselves will begin to communicate with us in such a way that we can hear them again. Indeed, divine beings all around us, we will begin to have access to them again. Sacred forests will begin to bloom again. Everything will begin to happen, but we first need to activate ourselves. So I hope that answers your question. Yes, please.
Can I just ask a clarifying question?
Yes.
From that one? When you are speaking of activating yourself, that is not just like I'm activated all of a sudden, right? Like that in and of itself, just like Prapati is a process, correct?
Yeah.
So you're not just like, I'm going to meditate one day and then I'm fully activated.
Right. That is exactly the New Age approach. Yeah, that's why I try to make this clear. Again, I'm using shorthand. I even said that. Using shorthand, we need to activate ourselves. But of course, what does that mean? No, it's not a matter, like the New Age people, you take a pill. That's actually, New Age people are more into drugs than people understand. That's why we don't like them. No, it's not a matter of a quick thing. It's a matter of, no, we must activate ourselves. Oh, of course. What does that mean? That means we must purify ourselves. We must unleash those powers that are latent within us. And when we say powers, of course, we don't mean materialistically. What we mean is precisely what I was saying. The power, try this. The power of humility, the power of surrender, the power of gratitude, the power of humility. We need to exercise all of these powers that are there latent within us such that we ourselves become a being who has the capability of communicating with the gods and understanding the energies of all sacred objects and things. So yes, it's not a quick fix sort of thing. We need to build ourselves in such a way spiritually that we are activated, and that will take time. That will definitely take time, and then we'll be able to activate all the other natural powers that are there within this sacred universe of ours. Very good. All right, let me see what other questions there are. Good question about meditation. And it is Namaste Acharyaji, my humble thanks to you for answering our questions. It's absolutely my pleasure. When meditating and focusing on mantra, are we to be noticing the watcher of the mantra as per Zen, or just concentrate on the mantra? Excellent question. Unequivocally, we are to focus on the sound vibration of the mantra itself. No, we are not to watch the watcher. We are not to be even aware of ourselves. Indeed, this is the standard, meaning the ancient, meaning the authentic, meaning the traditional and real understanding of meditation. That when we are meditating, and meditating in a real way, i.e., like you said, mantra, and now made up mantra, a mantra revealed specifically in the Vedic scriptures. So, of course, the primary, not the only, but the primary mantra that we focus upon is Om Namo Narayanaya. So when meditating on a mantra such as this, the entire process of what is technically called dhyana, or meditation itself, is that as you're saying the sacred sound vibration, your full awareness in a relaxed way. Oh, it's relaxed. You're not concentrating to the point where you've got veins on, at the side of your head. No, it's a very relaxed, peaceful awareness. You are aware of the mantra, and literally, I try to explain this to people, and sometimes even after several explanations, they still don't 100% understand it. You are meditating on the mantra and nothing but the mantra. Not even the fact that, I am saying the mantra. Oh, this is so nice. I am saying a sacred. No, if you have thoughts like this in your mind, you're not meditating. If you're even reacting to what you're experiencing, oh, this is wonderful. I'm beginning to experience something blissful. You're not meditating. You are to meditate literally only on the sound. That is the discipline. That's what makes it harder than people think. Again, it's a challenge. People who think, this is just a simplistic little thing. No, it's difficult. That's why it takes time. It takes years to come to this point. But yes, no, you are not focusing on yourself, focusing on the mantra. You are focusing on the mantra. And you're not focusing even on focusing. You simply are focusing on the mantra. Indeed, let me state it in this simple way. In your meditation, in your awareness, nothing exists but the sound of the names of God. Nothing. And in that way, you're surrendering to the mantra, and more, in this way, you're making that sacred divine name of God, which is non-different from God himself, central to all things. See, there, like with everything else, and I've talked about this endless numbers of time, but for very good reason, I need to. There are two types of spirituality. There are two types of meditation, etc. Now, dealing just with meditation, there's a sort of meditation where it is spiritually self-involved. Then you do other things. If it's spiritually self-involved and it's all just focused on me and me and me. But the higher form of meditation is a meditation in which, we're trying to transcend mere sense of me. That is, egotistical sense of me, and instead have God in the center of all things. This is why when we say mantra, only the mantra exists. We are serving the mantra by reciting the mantra and giving our full awareness. So, good question. Very good question. I hope that answers the question. Here's another good and interesting question, actually, and I will definitely answer this. Is feeling euphoric for non-spiritual media evil? Even motivational media has this effect where it feels like it softens you up. Is it all evil? What does spiritual bliss feel like in contrast? Good question, and let me answer this actually. And I understand why you're asking this, because sadly there are some very modern, let's say, neo-Vedic groups who are very neophyte in their understanding, who they tend to state these things in this sort of way that, oh yes, if it's not 1,000% quote unquote spiritual, then it's evil. It's Maya. It is to be avoided, etc., etc., etc. And no, that is a fanaticism and a fundamentalism and a craziness that doesn't exist in our proper understanding of Sanatana Dharma. No, rather what we understand is that, there certainly is a distinction between the spiritual and the material, between Purusha and Prakriti. We understand this, that which is consciousness is different from that which is insentient, inert matter. We understand this. But at the same time, interestingly, this idea that that which is not purely spiritual is of necessity evil, positively evil, that's Abrahamism, that's Judaism, that's Christianity, mainstream Christianity, that's Islam. That has nothing to do with us. That is not taught in Sanatana Dharma. Rather, the understanding is this, that what is wrong are not the objects or even necessarily the activities themselves, unless they're unethical activities. But rather, what the crux of the issue is what is occurring internally. So, for example, I've talked about this endlessly, given a million examples. Observe very carefully. For those wondering, there's not Lassie in here or Arnold Palmer's, it's water. Now, I just took a sip of water. Was that overtly spiritual? Was that a spiritual act? Was I doing puja as I was drinking the water? Is the water actually, was it given to me directly by Krishna, so therefore it's divine amrita? No. It's water. Did I just do really kind of a material act? I took a material thing, water, I gave it to my mouth, which was thirsty, a material thing. Was that an evil act? Was that an act of the nature of evil? Of course not. Now again, some neophytes would say, oh, but it wasn't fully spiritual, so yes, it was meaningless. Well, yeah, tell me that, I would say to that person, yeah, please explain that to me as you're sipping some water. I would love to see you go for the next 50 years without performing that evil act of sipping some water. No, of course, we can engage, and we are to engage in some material things, even if we are highly spiritual individuals. Now, to get to the heart of what you're asking here, and that is watching material. So I will assume that means, because there are no good TV shows in existence. I assume that you mean movies that are not necessarily overtly spiritual, not like the story of Krishna or something like that, but they're motivational, they're inspirational. I will tell you right now, there is nothing wrong, what to speak of evil, there's nothing wrong with watching such films. Indeed, I watch such films. And I don't watch films for titillation because I'm bored, I don't get bored, etc., etc. Rather, yes, it is nice to watch films that are moving, that are inspirational, that have good messages to them, etc. How many times, who among my followers does not know that among my favorite movies is Lord of the Rings? Now, Lord of the Rings is not the story of Krishna, it's not the story of Rama, etc. But, to say it is highly inspirational, that would be the understatement of the century. So yes, to watch such things that give us impetus to better ourselves, etc. Not only is there nothing evil about these things, it's actually a good thing. Indeed, I tell my students that, if you find movies where you watch them and afterwards you feel elevated and there are almost tears coming from your eyes, you can't believe that something moved you so much in a meaningful way, you see, in a meaningful way. In a way where, now you want to be a better person, now you want to grow spiritually even more, definitely watch such movies. There's nothing evil, there's nothing mayak, etc. in such things. The same goes for music, the same goes for visual art, the same goes for architecture. Vedic architecture, do I love Vedic architecture? Beautiful ancient Vedic temples, of course. And I also love the American Renaissance period of architecture, circa 1876 to 1914. Why? Because again, it's inspirational and beautiful. So indeed, we can experience other things that are sattvic. They are not directly Vedic, but they're sattvic, and they move us, and that is good for us. So indeed, that is the answer. You are not to worry about such things. Very good. One last thing. You ask one last thing here. What does spiritual bliss feel like in contrast? Follow this path honestly, follow this path sincerely, without ever giving up, and you will be able to answer that for yourself. Very good. Good. Here's another good question, actually. This is almost a follow-up on a previous question about unleashing the latent powers of divine objects. You say, I live in an area where we have several temple ruins of Celtic devas. Is it possible through meditation to find out which deva was once worshipped at a specific temple? Absolutely. Absolutely. And you see, this is the difference between, again, New Age people versus we followers of Sanatana Dharma. Because they too would say that. They would say, oh yes, absolutely. Oh yes, yes. Here's a crystal, and go there and wave the crystal, and immediately you'll know. That's what the New Age person would say. What we would say, on the other hand, is it possible to go to such ruins, go very deeply into meditation, and the deva himself of that temple will reveal who he or she was? Oh yes, absolutely. But you must become a being, you yourself must become a being who, via meditation, has the ability to raise yourself to the level of being of that deva. And again, what does that mean? What was said before, time and practice. Time and practice. So no, the idea that, oh, you'll just kind of go there, sit and meditate for an hour, and oh, I have a feeling, no, that's the New Age individual who we don't take seriously. But rather, again, purify yourself in such a way that that being will truly speak to you. And yes, that can be absolutely done. For that matter, not just temples, but also other ancient ruins, also places that we know were sacred to ancient European, Celtic, etc., Norse, the totality of Europe. Ancient beings who inhabited certain areas, sacred groves, gardens, a field, a river, a mountain, etc. Oh yes, we can do this, but we have to do so with great humility and with great patience. And in time, the knowledge of that area and of the beings involved in that area can be revealed to us. So I hope that answers your question. Let me just check the time. Okay, we are a little bit over time, so I'm going to maybe take one or two more questions, and then we're going to stop there just so that we don't go over time. But give me a moment so I can look through the questions and see now if there are one or two I can answer pretty quickly and that are important. Very good. I will answer this question, actually. This is a question about questions, and this is more important than we understand. Just like when dealing with philosophy, before we even deal with, is there a God? Is there truth? Is there fate? Are we slaves? Is there free will? 100 million philosophical questions that we can ask. First, we have to deal with epistemology. First, we have to deal with, well, how do I know anything to begin with? In the same way, this is an important question. Let me first read it. Namaste, dearest Acharyaji. I do not know any good questions to ask you at the moment. What are good questions to ask a genuine spiritual teacher, Acharya? So in the same way, this is crucial. Indeed, let me just say, in asking this question, you have shown your sincerity. Because a person who is not sincere, A, will just ask questions nonetheless. B, they'll ask questions where rather than really wanting the answers, all that they're interested in doing is displaying their own rabid, false, narcissistic ego by trying to show how much they think they know. So they want to throw gotcha questions. challenging questions. They want to throw questions where they're hoping that they're going to trap you in something, etc. This is why debate today doesn't work, because people are not honest. Rather, let me answer this. The questions that one should ask of a true guru, and I'm not even going to include myself in this. Let me make a scenario, the typical scenario that people think of. Oh yes, you've heard that there is truly an enlightened being just like the Buddha and Jesus and the Rishi combined, and he's at the top of a mountain. Oh, you have to make it to the top of that mountain, and then you can ask the questions that you want. And you make it all the way to the top of that mountain, and now you're sitting at that person's feet. Now, finding yourself in this position, indeed, what are you going to ask? Are you going to waste your opportunity with this being by asking stupid questions meant to just satisfy your ego, and because you're threatened by that being's enlightenment, you want to take him down a notch by showing, oh, I guess you're not as smart as you... No. Now that you find yourself in this position, this is what you do. Let me tell you what I would do, and this is what you do. First, of course, you follow that person's feet. That's number one, before you open your mouth. Your mouth is of no importance. Your actions are. Trust me, you're not enlightened. Well, what comes out of your mouth, maybe it'll be a little worth it, probably not. Instead, you fall at that person's feet with your mouth shut, and you offer your obeisances. And then, when you get up, if you say something, you say something to the effect of, "Oh, great master, I am privileged and honored to be here in your presence. Thank you for allowing me to even be here, what to speak of, to ask you questions that I know I will now, finally, after searching for all of my life, I will now have the actual answers to. Thank you for this opportunity." And then you wait. And when the guru finally says to you, "Absolutely my pleasure, I'm very happy that you're here. Please, what are your questions?" Now you ask questions with humility, and what should be the general nature of these questions? Not, "Oh, well, great master, I was on YouTube and I saw this debate between two nobodies, and they were debating whether there's free will or determinism, and this person had these points and arguments, and this person had these points and arguments. Which one is true?" That's a waste of life. Every question that a person should ask of a true guru should be along these lines. "Guruji, what do I need to do such that I reduce my illusion and false ego, and such that I increase my surrender to God, my desire to please God, and my ability to please God?" In other words, how do I grow spiritually? Not, "Oh, philosophical conundrums. Oh, God is omnipotent, so can God create a boulder so big that even he can't lift it? He. What a waste. Playing mental games, mental gymnastics. All the questions at the feet of a guru should be along the lines of, "Please tell me what to do." Read the Bhagavad Gita. Those of you who have not yet, and those of you who have once, read it again. What does Arjuna, who was the greatest warrior of his time, what does he do when he approaches Krishna? Does he, answer this philosophical conundrum for me? No. He says, "Lord Krishna, I've given up on life. I don't know what to do. I don't know where to turn. Please help me. Please help me. Please tell me, what am I to do?" This is how you approach a guru. This is how you approach a guru. And let me tell you, this is how I've encountered quite a few legitimate gurus, authentic gurus. And whenever I approached, that was my approach. I either would say nothing, I would be very silent, or if I did say something, the questions I would ask would be questions that I knew would actually help me to know God. Not solve riddles for me, philosophical riddles. No, go play a game instead. Go find, some good riddle book. Intellectual stimulation sort of little books. They sell them at supermarkets. Sudoku, is that one? Something like that. Nice little intellectual riddles. No, we approach a guru for one reason. My life, I've come to a crossroads. My life, I understand. I've lived a life of suffering and lies. Now I want to have the opposite. I want to have a life of true bliss, and I understand what that means. I understand that what that means is absolute surrender to God, and I want truth. That being the case, oh Guruji, please instruct me. How do I know this? How do I do this? This is how we approach the Guru. This is how we ask questions. We ask questions in desperate honesty. In desperate honesty. So I hope that answers that question. Very good. So with that, I believe I'm going to have to stop here because, again, we are over by a little bit of time, and we have a few people who have to get going, so I don't want to keep people for too long. So with that, again, we're going to stop here. I ask you that you please join us again next week. If I did not get to your questions, because I know there are many more questions, I apologize very much, but did my best with the time that we had. And people know me. I don't like to give one-word questions. I like to truly answer people's questions in a very real sort of way. So join us again next week when, again, we will have a talk where most likely I'll be looking at several verses from the Vedic scriptures and then commenting on those verses. And in the meantime, please join us other places. Let me repeat this as I always do. For those of you who are new and who are sincere, you have to be sincere, otherwise don't do what I'm about to tell you. We have a Discord server. It's the Dharma Nation Discord server. And I believe the link to it either should already be in the chat. If not, then it will be put in the chat. Please join that if you can and if you so desire. And let me explain. This is a lot of people, especially younger people, know what Discord is. And there are 100,000 groups on there. Maybe I'm under-exaggerating. Who knows how many groups dealing with everything imaginable. This is not like any of those other groups. And it's not just a matter of me saying this. I'll explain to you why. It's not like any other groups on Discord. We treat our Discord server as a sacred temple. And indeed, when people come, we warn them. Figuratively, take your shoes off before you enter our Discord server. This is not a place for you to display ego, to come here and debate, show what you think you know, search around and play games, etc. No. That's the rest of the internet. If that's what you want, oh my Lord, there are 100,000 million, billion, zillion, quadrillion places you can go. But our Discord server is different. If you wish to enter a sacred temple, digitally speaking, online, where you can have real discussion and ask real questions about Sanatana Dharma, about deep spirituality, not surface spirituality, but deep spirituality. And if you can do something, if you wish to do something which is unavailable today anywhere else, and that is to get the actual answers and to actually understand things through the eyes of Sanatana Dharma as it was practiced in previous yugas, which, believe me, you're not going to find anywhere. Join our Discord server. And there is discussion that happens 24/7. We have people from many dozens of nations throughout the world. We have general chats. We have actual live discussion groups that go on, and the number just increases all the time of those discussion groups. So please join our Discord server when you can. Also, when you can, please go to our website, dharmacentral.com, and when you're there, you will see all of our books. So I mentioned, for example, Radical Universalism. At this point, I've written about 13 books, and most, if not all of them, are available on dharmacentral.com. And this one especially, this is the last one that just came out. I would definitely get this. Also, if you would like to donate to the ISDS. Oh yes, we are a movement. We are a movement of radical authenticity, but we also have to pay the electric bills, etc. We are a movement. If you can, please donate to us. If you can, become a tithing member of the ISDS. And when you do that in that way, you feel tied to us and that you are an actual member of the ISDS. And then we have so many other resources that are there on dharmacentral.com. So with that, we will see you again next Sunday at the same time at 2 p.m. Central Time, Vedic Heartland Time. And with that, in the meantime, Namaste. Jaya Shriman Narayana.
Jaya Shriman Narayana.
Jaya Bhagavan Shri Krishna.
Jaya Bhagavan Shri Krishna.
Jaya Shri Guru.
Jaya Shri Guru.
Sanatana Dharma Jayate.
Sanatana Dharma Jayate.
Dharmarashtra Jayate.
Dharma Rashtra Jayate.
Surya Vangsha Jayate.
Surya Vangsha Jayate.
International Sanatana Dharma Society Jayate.
International Sanatana Dharma Society Jayate.
Evam Bhavatu. May the victory of Dharma be so. And so it shall be. With that, everyone, regardless of anything that comes your way, regardless of any circumstances, at all times, I ask you, please, do not fear.